I think it's very interesting. All I can say about this, and I'm working on an article about it now, is I think it's very interesting that anybody that's ever gotten in Hillary Clinton's way has a weird tendency of how do I say, waking up dead. Let me see, Ron Brown, JFK Jr., Vince Foster. She's got a very interesting way of having people that are her enemies have bad things happen to them. I mean, I could float a scenario out there for you, which I think is interesting. What would happen? And I'm just saying that this is a blue sky theory. What would happen if you actually had, say, Obama as the presidential nominee, Hillary Clinton as the vice president? You go through the election cycle, and let's say they both get elected, and then something, let's say, happens to Barack Obama. You have riots in all the major cities. You would have the populations in the inner cities rioting in Washington, D.C., Detroit, all across the United States, which would then allow Hillary Clinton to implement all of the executive orders that George Bush has put in place in his 8 years or so. And I've always said the executive orders and the fascist, draconian, totalitarian stuff that Bush was putting in place was not going to be for George Bush. It was going to be in place for whoever was going to be president between 2008 and 2012, because that's when the real chaos was coming, both politically and economically. So
yeah, but this election could still be halted if something happens. You know that.
Here's the process. The President of the United States, under current executive orders, could halt the election for 180 days. And then the Congress and the Senate would actually reconvene under the protection, I might add, of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who I've explained over and over do not get along with this president and consider him a rogue president and have defied his orders on a number of occasions. The Joint Chiefs of Staff would then reconvene the Congress and the Senate, and the Congress and the Senate would be responsible for either holding the elections or they would be the ones who would be responsible for then reinitiating the election cycle. So it's not something that's going to happen. It's not like Bush is going to be, the king or the Fuhrer or anything like that. They have too much invested in the illusion of choice, in the matrix, if you will, the pretend that people have actually some kind of choice, because nothing really ever changes. I've said, again, that Hillary has had a series of clandestine meetings inside the White House with both Bush and Cheney, where she's been told that she's it, she's the hand-picked, anointed one, and that this is
your sources, or is this remote viewing?
This is my sources. This is people inside the White House, inside the Pentagon, inside the Beltway. This was a big deal as far as her meetings with Bush.
What does she do? Dress up like Britney Spears and sneak in?
No, they've had these meetings in the White House where they've basically said, look, this is when you take over, this is how it's going to be, and this is what you've got to do.